Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Creator to Creators Today. Today we have a special guest.
Brea Grant.
Welcome to the show, love.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Definitely. The last time I think I briefly saw you was a couple years ago at that shoot, Barbara Crampton shoot.
Yeah, it was pre 2020, but I don't think it
Yeah.
was that pre, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm not what is time? Does time
knows?
exist anymore? I don't know. I keep finding myself saying like last year, but I mean like 2019 when I
Right.
say last year.
Same. I'm like, what is happening? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes. And you look great. And it's so good to catch up with you. And thank you so much for having time for us. I always love to talk to people and just kind of go from the beginning. Like, you know, before all of it, how was your childhood? Like, what was that like growing up? And how did you find your way kind of into the industry stuff?
Um, yeah. I didn't know anyone in the industry. I did not grow up with that being even like a possibility
Wow.
to make movies, like that felt like something like magical that someone else did. The only thing, so I grew up in East Texas in like a small town, and the only thing I participated in that was sort of like making films as I did local theater.
Nice.
So my dad wrote plays and there was a college there. There was multiple colleges there. And then I did theater like as a kid, like I was in like the greatest Christmas pageant ever. And those kind of things, which I loved. And then I got to high school and I was in a theater class in high school, but I wasn't like as good as everyone else. I don't know what was going on, but I never got cast in the plays.
What?
I know. Where are those people now who are getting the leads? So I kind of was like, maybe this isn't for me, as if high school theater is some sort of like barometer for how you're going to be as you get older. But so then I went to college for history. I have a degree in American history.
Nice.
And but while I was there, I went to grad school. And while I was in grad school, I was sort of like, I don't really like graduate school. I don't really like what's going on here. Like, what did I want to do before I thought maybe I wanted to be a professor? And I kind of went back to that time when I was a kid and like, was like, I loved being in theater. And I always pictured myself like, because I had seen celebrities and like I knew what they looked like. And I was like, oh yeah. And the celebrities, they go on like talk shows. And like, I'd like imagine myself doing that when I was a kid where I'm like, oh yeah. So I always imagined myself, and this never happened to me, and it probably won't now that I'm not really acting anymore. But I always imagined that it would be like, actually, it's just way too late for this. It'd be like, all the names at the beginting, of the movie where it's like, big name. And it's like introducing Brea Grant. And I'd be like, but I didn't start acting till I was like 25. So I don't know how I thought I'd be like introduced as anything. So that was sort of my trajectory. And then I moved to LA. So, I mean, honestly, like a little bit on a whim. I was in graduate school. I wasn't loving it. Yeah. And I had a breakup and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pack my stuff in my car. And my dog at the time. And we just moved to LA. And I was like, let me just see how this goes. And I've been here now for 15 years.
Wow.
No, it's almost been longer. It's been longer than that.
Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Thanks.
That's amazing. I think that's literally how I live my life. Like you just gotta go like that, take that leap of faith.
I'm so glad you say this is actually, I'm glad you said that. This is my number one bit of advice to people who are like, I'm thinking about doing it. I'm like, you shouldn't think, just do it. Because if you think too hard, it doesn't make any sense.
Yes, so true.
And I think we spend so much time, and I am a person who wants to prep and do all the work and whatever. Yeah. But I think if I had taken more time to think about the things that I've done, I wouldn't have done them. Like I kind of jump in head first to the deep end, whether or not there's water. Like that's sort of been my life mantra. And it's, it's backfired many times, but then in some ways it's created my career. So
Absolutely.
It's like between those two things.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yes. That's how I live my life. I think I'm a gypsy, low key. Like I feel like a couple years in some place. LA was the longest I've ever stayed anywhere. I think because it's just so much going on.
Yeah. How long were you in LA for?
Oh, 10 years. 10
okay,
years.
That's a while. That's a commitment.
Yeah. I got a good, connection and everything. And I was like, ooh, let's do Atlanta. And then people are like, how are they going to be there? I'm like, I don't know. I might just want to go out of the country and do something else. I don't know.
I
I'm
love
weird.
that. I love that. I mean, I think there was a time where I would move to a different house every single year because I just felt like I needed like new space and like new energy. I've been at this house for a minute, which has been nice, but I do redecorate. Like I redecorate constantly. I feel like I need that constant like stimulus,
Yes.
which made during the pandemic was tough because was looking at the same walls like every day. But I do feel like I have that same thing where like, I think if I was in any other industry, I would probably move elsewhere and probably move a lot more often.
Yeah.
But my partner's here and I'm here and it would just kind of be weird.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
That's like the dream. And yeah, that's amazing. I heard you say like you're not really doing acting much. I'm like, what? Like you are amazing actress. I've seen a lot of your films, you know, I mean, from heroes to you've played so many roles. I mean, is there anything that would like put you back on the like I want to get back in it because I haven't done this?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been so much more inspired and kind of found a really nice place for myself behind the camera. Like that's just been more interesting for me in the last, 4 or 5 years. Even 5 years ago, I was sort of like, I think I'm almost done with this. Like I was getting stuff and I got some really cool roles. Like the last few movies I did were awesome. Like I did Lucky, which I wrote.
Yes.
I did After Midnight with Jeremy Gardner. And that's like an awesome movie where I have like a 12-minute monologue and he does it without cutting. It was great. And then I did The Stylist with Jill. So I did a bunch of fun stuff like right towards the end. And I sort of was like, I don't know if I can go up from here. Like, I feel like I've done like what I need to do. But yeah, I mean, look, all my friends are filmmakers. And so I know I'll be in other stuff. And I like working with friends. And so that's important to me. It's important for me to support filmmakers who I think, that I love. And that, so yes, like, obviously if JJ Abrams called me and was like, come be a swimmer, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take some time off of directing. And also my friends or people that I really like respect. But I'm not out there auditioning. I stopped all that a couple of years ago and then kind of just had to, it takes up so much time, how it
does. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So time consuming, but I do have like a long-term plan where at some point I'm like, I'm going to get burnt out on writing and directing. And I'm like, they always need like grandmothers in these TV shows. Like in CSI, they always need like the grandmother to come in or like, some old lady in a cult. And I'm like, oh, that could be me. Like I could be the old lady in the cult when I get to be like, 70, 80. And I'm like, I don't want to direct anymore. Like, I think that's my long-term plan.
Okay. I think that's great. I love it. Yes, I can see that. No, I mean, I'm so happy that you found like you love this space that you're in right now. I think that's super. I think most actors kind of transition into directing because you've done so many films and you have, I'm sure you guys have so many ideas, like what things you want to see done that the industry hasn't done yet.
Yeah. And I think it starts with a lot of actors finding it in a very personal place where you're like, that was what started with for me, as I was like, I'm not getting the calls I want. I'm playing these like very specific roles, which were fine. And like, look, I mean, like were my bread and butter and like helped me survive for 10 plus years as an actor. And which is like a very long amount of time to be a working actor. And I'm very grateful for all of those roles. But I think I just was like, I want to see like other stuff that I'm not getting to do. So my first film I directed was actually in 2013 and I starred in it and I wrote and I co-wrote it. And it was like one of those, like, I think I learned a lot in the directing process, but for me, it was mostly about, I want to do a different role as an actor. Yeah. And I think a lot of actors start that way. And then I think a lot of us end up going like, wait a second, like this directing stuff is pretty great. And I don't have to worry about if my face is broken out and like if I ate too much salt the day before and like no one, and I'm getting to like be in control of what's happening moving forward as much as you can be in control of any film. Right. So I think a lot of actors like have that realization once they do it. I always tell actors, I'm like, be careful because you'll probably change your career after you do this.
That's so true. You've been doing some great 12-hour shit. Like that was such a great, so funny. I was like, this is hilarious. Your humor it's like, I love that kind of humor. It's so good. Mm-hmm. And then also your new film, Torn Hearts, completely two different, films. What made you say, you know what? Like I wonder, as directing, are you, when you get these projects, are you like, okay, this speaks to me and I want to do this? Like, why do you say yes to certain projects?
I'm asking myself that same question right now. I mean, because, stuff comes my way and I mean, for me, it has to check a couple of boxes.
Okay.
I think I come from a place of character, so I'm always looking for interesting characters. And I think that's like the through line for me really is like, does it have cool characters, and usually cool female characters? I don't get sent that much, honestly, for that are outside of like that space. And I don't really write many male characters, but I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
Right.
For sure. I would obviously love that opportunity as well, but complicated, interesting characters.
Yes.
I love characters who are in the like gray area. I love the characters who aren't like good all the time. Like they're making some choices that are questionable and we're kind of like, oh my God, why am I cheering for this person? Like that is always something that when I read that in a script, I'm like, yes, I want to make this movie. And then like, yeah. And then I don't know, I think it just depends on like other things that draw me in. Like I'm big on location. So like if it's a cool location, which like for Torn Hearts that I just did, that was like, there was this cool house we were going to get to deck out and like make really interesting, and getting to like design that house from, the bottom up, basically. I mean, it was a real house, and then we built some other rooms as well, but that kind of stuff is really fun to me, like creating space. And I think, so yeah, I think it's just a combination. And I think any director will say this, is like, you can find you're in, that it can be a good movie. But sometimes I get scripts and I'm like, it's an objectively great script. Mm-hmm. The characters are cool, but I just don't have a connection with anything here. And that feels really important to me. Yeah. Especially at this time. I mean, I'm not exactly a direct, I'm not like jumping onto a ton of other people's projects because I write myself. Yeah. But I'm not opposed to it. But I feel like that there is this danger sometimes that you'll end up doing other people's voices a lot. And hopefully my voice comes out in all of the things that I've done.
Yes, it has. And it's so, how you watch certain movies, like you watch a Spielberg or a Tim Burton, and they have like a particular style. Mm-hmm. Do you think that are you getting there, or do you stamp a certain style in each of your films?
I think I'm getting there. I think, I've never, I'm still sort of building my team. Yeah. I've never worked with the same team on my features, and I've worked in television, and obviously those are different teams. But I think I'm getting to the point where I feel more confident about having that team, like knowing who I really trust, knowing what I like. And I think right now my stamp is always like, there's gonna be a lot of dark humor in anything I do. And even when like, sometimes it's maybe not in the script, I like end up adding, like, I like putting in that like dark sense of humor that I think both Torn Hearts and 12 Hour Shift have quite a bit of.
Oh my gosh.
So that's sort of, I feel like for me, especially coming from the actor side of things, I just focus on character, and I focus on dialogue and try to find ways to make that more Brea Grant-esque.
No, you're doing fantastic. Like mm-hmm. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. It was so good. And it was great to see her. A woman that is, I think she's in her 60s, if I'm not mistaken, right? Katey.
I think Katey is. Hold on, I'm going to Google it.
I want to say
really mad if we are saying that she's in her 60s.
I want to say she's been out there for a minute.
You're right. She's almost 70. That's right. I didn't know how old she was.
God, yes. I was like, yes. Because, you hear these stories in Hollywood, like, it's over at a certain age and that's it. So it's great to see women that are still working well past the quote unquote cutoff age.
Yeah.
And still sexy doing it.
Oh, I think she looks so good. I know. It's like really intimidating, honestly. Like, it's intimidating to be around like a woman that beautiful, and she's very tall and she's very statuesque. Yeah. And like, she just looks amazing, but she also just has a great presence. And I also say in 12 Hour Shift, I had Angela Bettis, who obviously is not that old, but she is over 40, and she also has a great presence. And I do find myself drawn to working with women that age. And when I see an opportunity, I definitely go for it. There's just not that many scripts out there with them as leads. I will say, I mean, I just so rarely read them. And
why do you think that is?
Because we live in a really youth-oriented culture, and like, that's the sad part, right? It's that, and this is why I think so many actresses they clock out at some point and they're like, I'm going to take a break or whatever, because it's like, there's nothing juicy for them. And there's not, I mean, look, you can be cult grandma, which I'm planning on doing, but like, there's only so many roles for even like a Meryl Streep every year. And she takes them all.
Yeah.
So I think like, and she's great. Like, I mean, I love Meryl Streep,
we love her. We love you.
Yes. Please call us. Meryl Streep, call us. We would like to work with you. No, Katey is my Meryl Streep. She's amazing. She's, I mean, I think we live in a culture that loves youth. And so we are constantly writing about college or high school, or times when we can all relate to as like big points of change. And I think people are just not writing as many roles for them. I when I get a script with a woman over 40, I'm always like any role, I'm like, oh, you found it. Because I know so many amazing women over that at that age. We were just doing amazing work. I mean, we were just talking about Barbara Crampton. I mean, she rules and like amazing, and has honestly found a lot of really cool roles. I think. Wow, she's working all the time. I think people are literally writing for her. Like I meet people and they're like, I'm writing Barbara Crampton like roles, but she has like carved that out, I think, and like bless her, because I think we need more of that, because we don't need to see these great talents go away just because they hit 35 or 40. That's so silly. Yeah, it's not that way for men, unfortunately. No, not at all. There's always, anytime I'm reading, I'm like, great. And I have really talented male actor friends as well that I like love working with. But I know it doesn't, like, because you still are like the leading guy, but you know, your wife is 27. It's like, what? I know. I would love to see an older woman with a young man, like, and have that, why not? That would be great. And that, like, make that mainstream, like that could be done. Listen, someone write that movie for me and I'll make it. I would I would also love that. It'd be very, very sexy. And it would change the trajectory of how I think film is going. I mean, definitely shocking, but why not? I think a lot of people would like to see that. I think so too. And I think, I mean, look like we both were like, Katey, gorgeous, Meryl Streep, gorgeous. I mean, I don't think these women like lose their charisma. I think that the industry is just ageist, and it's like, oh, what are these women doing besides staying at home and knitting? Or I don't know what they think people are doing. But I think like they're still living interesting, full lives with like complicated choices and all sorts of, inner things happening. So I'm always interested in those kind of stories. Me too. I gotta find that. I gotta find the ASAP. Find it. I'm always a person that's like, I love that you write, you act, you direct. I mean, what do you think that's the thing now that people should be open? Like, the more that you do, the longevity that you would have in this industry. Would you say that? I mean, I think that helps. I do. It's so weird. So like, I directed my first movie in 2013. And I acted in it, and like I said, but at that time, this was not an exciting thing for people. My team at the time, they were like, they didn't understand it. They're like, you're an actor, you're making money as an actor. Why would you want to do anything else? Why are you writing? Why are you trying to direct? This is like a wild thing. And it was really like, they like kind of shut it down for me. And I think it's why it took so many years between my first and second movie, because 12 Hour Shift is, was almost 10 years later. I mean, it's like 6-7 years later, but it was a long time, because I just felt like I was really discouraged from trying to do multiple things. But then I feel like just a few years ago, people are suddenly like, if you're not writing, you're a loser, which I don't want to push that either. like so writing's not for everyone. Not everyone has to be writing. You can definitely like be a creative force and not be the person picking up the pen. Not that he was picking up pens, sitting there at, final draft. Like, you can still be a strong creative force in your own projects or anything, just as an actor, as a, it's any job, obviously. So I do think it is helpful though at this point, because at the very least you're able to, like, even if you just write a little bit, the struggle that goes into it, you understand story really well. Like, one of the first jobs I had in LA was I was a script reader. Nice. And I would, I read for CAA, and I read for a management company that eventually became my management company. Enough. I would read scripts all day. That was like, I'd go, and I think I got paid like $30 a script or something. It was like not very much. And I would write
Wow.
coverage and tell them what it was about and be like, you should make this or you shouldn't make this. It's like, what am I making?
That's awesome.
While I was waiting tables. But it was so
Wow.
helpful because I was going into an industry I didn't really know or understand. And I was like, I need to understand scripts and I need to understand formats and structure and that kind of stuff. And so I think that was very helpful for me, even just acting, like just acting at that time. And I think people could do the same now just by writing, just by taking a writing class, like just learning like, oh, the reason my character, like at this, like an actor that knows script, structure will go, oh, this is the midpoint of the movie.
Yeah.
My character needs to have this big change. Like just knowing that it's going to help the creative process so much.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And you're killing it. You're doing it. I love it. It's so refreshing to see. Like, I'm like, yes.
Thank you.
It's like, and it's like you're a woman. It's great to see that. And I think the more we see that, the better.
Yeah. I think it is important to see it. And I forget that sometimes because I'm like, oh, I don't want to post on Instagram, or people are like, can I shadow you? And I'm like, why? Do you really think you'll learn anything? And I'm like, oh yeah. You will. I like, yes. Like there are so many things that I feel like I have to like remind myself because it was important for me to see too. Yeah. Cause I mean, of all the TV I've done, I think I worked with like 2 female directors during that time.
Jesus.
And like 1 feature director and 2 feature directors. And I worked with 2 more female feature directors in the last couple of years. But I just think it was really important for me to see them. I will say like I did 1 day on Pitch Perfect 3, 2. I think I'm
Is it 2? I think there's so many.
I'm in 2.
I love them.
I don't know which one I'm in. I did 1 day. I know. They're so funny. I know they're so funny, but I just like watched Elizabeth Banks and I remember thinking she was such a boss. Like she like knew what she was doing. The scene involved like a lot of stuff. And she was like, everyone was listening to her. And I was like, oh.
And that just kind of inspired you to.
I mean, I had already directed a movie at that point, but the experience was hard. And I was like, can I actually do this? And seeing Elizabeth Banks was like important.
I love that you got to watch her do her thing. Like, in action. That's pretty awesome. It's funny. I read an article about just since, the movie theaters and how it's taken a big hit. Like a lot of people aren't going to the theaters anymore since the pandemic and all that stuff. So like, I mean, has it affect like anything when you're making a film and releasing it, the sales, since things are slowly opening it up, like slowly but surely?
Yeah. I mean, yes. So I had 2 movies do festivals during the pandemic, like do online festivals. So I had Lucky and 12 Hour Shift, and people were kind of everyone was like, we want content, but no one wanted to spend a ton of money on that content because they didn't know what was going to happen. So that definitely what affected us. And then now I think we're just at this place, and it's part pandemic has rushed it, but also I think people just don't want to go unless they're gonna, because it's expensive to go to the movies. And like, I have a great home entertainment system. So it's like, I do still love going to the movies, but
nice.
I think it's just affecting budgets, I think, in a lot of ways, like a lot of things that we're like, oh, we know this is going to streaming. So like, we don't want to spend this much money knowing that it's going straight to streaming. And this is like the max a streamer is going to buy it for. And I'm going through this right now with some projects where it's a little bit like, okay, if we get this person, like maybe we'll go to theaters, but if we can't get this person, like we just have to know that this has to be a movie under a certain budget level, which is pretty small compared to how much they used to make movies for. So, making a movie for under $5 million because you can't get a cast that is like going to get you a theatrical release. That's kind of like where a lot of filmmakers are at, I think. Plus it's just hard to get those people there's so much content. So they're reading stuff all the time and like, they just have so many options. So I mean, I think it's a changing environment. But weirdly, because there's more stuff getting made, I think there's more room for people. So it's like, we're not getting paid as much, but I think, maybe, you'll meet a lot more middle class filmmakers instead of super rich filmmakers, but at least you'll see a more diverse group of filmmakers. You'll see a lot more people who probably wouldn't have been able to make as much stuff as we're getting to make now.
No, I like that. That's a great, I think that we're in a good place, even though, that's affected when you're putting a film out like that, like a bigger film or something. But like you said, it's a lot of filmmakers out here now being
filmmakers. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. What do you want people to take away from Torn Hearts?
I mean, always I'm trying to get people to have fun. That's usually my like, okay, is this fun? Is this a good time? Is this like moving fast? And like, these are the questions I start to ask myself when I'm in post and trying to finalize the movie. I think I went in, I mean, that's number one. Number two, I would love people to, I mean, for me, the movie is really about the way the industry treats women and the way it particularly treats women once they get over a certain age, but also just like the hoops we have to jump through and the things that we have to do just to make our way into these things that we love. And like, I just want to like write a movie, and like, no, you have to go through all these, hoops just to do that. And it's about country music singers. So obviously it's not a complete like one-to-one with the film industry, but for me, I feel like I was talking a lot about the film industry. And so I think it was a sort of like questioning, like this ageism, the sexism, the things that are happening within these entertainment industries, and why women keep getting pitted against each other just to get a movie made or a song done or something like that. Like, this is art. We shouldn't have to do that. And I also really didn't. I think the movie is dark and it goes to a dark place, but my goal was to never judge these women. My goal was always to like have people walk away and go like, oh yeah, this is what of course they had to do. Because like they're stuck in this place where this is what they had to do, and they had almost no other choices. So like it's important for us to walk away and go, okay, we need to like have other choices for women, so they aren't just pitted against each other. So they aren't left out to dry once they reach a certain age. They don't have to rely just like on their looks to get ahead. Those are the kind of questions I wanted people to be asking, I guess.
And you did that. You did just that. I loved it. You executed it well. Fantastic. And I mean, Blumhouse, they're amazing. I mean, holy crap. Yeah. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's next? What are you working on at the moment? That you don't mind sharing?
I'm working on a few things. I mean, I'm a big reader, so I've been optioning some books. I've been working on that. That's been always a goal of mine. And I actually like have the time and the interest to do that right now. So that's been interesting. And then
another comic book by any chance?
You know what? I'm not working on a comic book right now, but I would love to. I would love to. And mostly, I mean, I'm a writer, so I do write a ton. Like, I finished this movie. It's been a quick turnaround for this movie. So I shot it less than a year ago.
Nice.
And then I had to have it turned in. I turned it in December. Like it was less than 6 months start to finish, which is, kind of wild. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 months. Wow. It was very quick. So I took a little bit of a break, and then I just sort of been back to my writing and trying to get stuff out there writing wise, which is, it takes a long time to write a script, but I sort of love the process. And like, there's nothing that makes me happier than like sitting down and like writing in the morning with like, my dog next to me. And like, that's just like the perfect life for me.
I love that. That's beautiful. For everybody that comes on the show, you can only pick one, and there's no wrong answer, but just wondering what you would pick. Loyalty or respect?
Just in general, just these two terms, giant terms. Okay.
Which one do you prefer?
Loyalty. I'm a Libra.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. I don't believe in that kind of stuff, but I do. I am sort of like a dyed in the wool Libra in a lot of ways. Like I'm very, I am very loyal. I like when people are loyal. If you were like, you can only work with the people who you like, who you've worked with in the past, this much of your life, I'd be like, great. Like, that sounds wonderful. I love the people that I love being around. Yeah. And I feel like there is like a respect in that. Like I feel loyal to them for working for me. And hopefully they feel the same way about me. And like, so I'm going to say loyalty. That I applied it to work immediately, which is sort of depressing. I feel like you should have been like, what about in life? And I'm like, what is life?
What is life? Right. It just continues to go on.
I know. Yes, I need to address that. Should be like life or work. That should be the question.
No, I love it. Great answer. Great answer.
Thank you.
Where can people find you on social media to follow you and all those good things?
I'm on Instagram now. I'm on Instagram. It's just Brea Grant. And I have a podcast. I have a podcast too. I have a book podcast. And it's just about reading and books. It's really nerdy. It's called Reading Glasses, and it comes out every Thursday.
Love it. I love that. Thanks you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you.